Well, hello, that's me again. Today is April 21st. It's the end of the weekend. Well, actually, it's in here in Seattle, it's middle of the weekend. So, and want to give you some food for thought in this coming week. So, as was expected, the Congress, the House actually, adopted the $61 billion package for Ukraine. In reality, obviously, it's not 61 billion. Most of it stays in the United States. But this is not even the most important part of it, because that was totally expected. But as you can see yourself, you know what? People had to react for people in the lower chamber in the House, waving those Ukrainian flags. So that even some Congress people like Anna Paulina Luna rips lawmakers waving Ukrainian flags on the House floor. And this is all, fine and dandy. It was totally expected. It will change absolutely nothing, because United States can only provide some weapons from its dwindling stocks, which will be annihilated. And speaking of which, of course, we have to understand that the most important part of this is not even $61 million for Ukraine. It is the fact that Congress adopted the resolution of confiscating of Russian assets in the United States. It's not big sum. Well, for Russia, it's pocket change. It's $8 billion. But it's the precedent, and guess what it is for? It is not only for stealing. They steal. There are thieves there. We know there are corrupt people there. But the point is that actually it is to convince. Well, convince is the really misnomer here. It's to push Europe to confiscating the remaining $300 billion, which are primarily saved, or whatever you can call it, have been already stolen de facto. Now they need to steal them de jure in Germany and other European banks. And this is a substantial amount of money. And you have to understand the consequences of this and why this is happening. And this is happening because of that. You see yourself? That's really important. As you can see yourself, the BRICS countries are studying the possibility of settlements in stable coins, said Russian Deputy Finance Minister Sergei Ryabkov. According to him, the option of creating a platform that will connect the digital currency systems of central banks is also being considered. And as you can see yourself, that Elvira Nabiulina speaking to people, she stated this, incredible number, actually, that in January that the share of BRICS countries in Russia's trade balance has doubled in 2 years and amounted to 40%, and settlements with BRICS countries in national currencies increased to 85%. So this is the main reason, because they know that the dollar basically, just going to be discarded at some point. It's being discarded, it's just a process. It's not happening like overnight. And obviously they decided to go for broke, and what can you expect from the, Capitol Hill White House? That's what it is what it is. Now, they are suffering, of course. They have those, how to put it politely, pains. You see, this is how Washington looks at the at the war in Ukraine. They see like Russians took Avdiivka, and it's immediately, as you can see yourself, of course it's a meme, they are about to surround Washington. Not that Russians need Washington. Why do you need to take Washington? It's completely Israel and other lobbies occupied territory, and why do you have this swamp? So, but this is what they're suffering from. It just completely, I don't know why those people really think that it is that important. But then again, this is how it works in U.S. media, and they talked up themselves for years, and actually for decades, so much that yesterday even New York Times has to say that drone combat in Ukraine, that it's transforming modern warfare, has begun taking a deadly toll on one of the most powerful symbols of American military might, the tank, and threatening to rewrite how it will be used in future conflict. And they're talking about the American M1 Abrams tanks, which are being annihilated, and eventually every single tank, unless it's going to be held by Ukraine, in the rear areas, and even that is not guaranteed, will be annihilated. It's not only drones. I mean, this T-72B3 blew up, the one of the Abrams with the first shot. So it's for some reason they always talk about the symbol. They love visuals. Just to give you an example, this is from the proceedings about 10 years ago, and you see even in proceedings they write about all those symbols. As retired Captain Robert C. Rubel wrote in the Naval War College Review, aircraft carriers are large and imposing. They provide excellent visuals. These visuals can be essential for deterrence or strategic messaging. A well-armed warship the size of a tanker would likely be more effective in the strategic messaging role than the corvette-sized littoral combat ship. Littoral combat ships, LCS, they are actually they are messaging about incompetence of people who created these vessels, which are being retired, even some of them being brand new. But this is just to demonstrate to you why, for some reason, they think that Abrams is such a great thing. You know what? You don't have to listen to me. You can go and listen to Mr. Colonel McGregor, who commanded the regiment of those M1 Abrams, and he's on record. It's a horrible thing. And apart from being gigantic profile, much higher, which is, by the way, it's undoing it, its engine, its turbine, my gosh, as he correctly stated, you can see it from space when the column of those tanks is moving. You cannot do anything about it. In infrared, you're shining like the Christmas tree at night. So what can I say? But they, for some reason, think that it is absolutely symbol of American military power. First, you have to understand, to have symbols of power, you have to win wars. That's what is in the foundation of the symbols of the military power. For example, yes, indeed, aircraft carriers have been the symbols of American military power, especially after those magnificent battles, of the Midway, Coral Sea, things of this nature, when you understand that, and, of course, Taffy 3 group, all that things, you understand that, oh my gosh, yes, they are symbols. Eventually, their symbolism has degraded, and it's nothing more than to scare some people, like you saw yourself, Houthis are not afraid and not impressed by U.S. carriers, but their time has gone, and but at least you can say, yeah, it was. But in terms of tanks, I don't know since when the United States has become a great tank power. Apart from the movie Patton, there's nothing really much to show it and for it, and obviously it's nowhere near in the scale of the operations, such as Russians beating the Citadel and at Kursk and other huge tank battles on the Eastern Front. There was nothing like this in the United States or allies committing something of this nature in the, for example, Western Front. Despite the fact, obviously, very important role they played in the closing phases of the World War II. So, I don't know, they said, oh yeah, Abrams is so awesome. Because what? Because it's defeated the monkey models of T-72s in Iraq, which they couldn't even operate properly. Well, sure, well, whatever, if people want to self-praise themselves, you cannot say anything about it. You cannot prevent them from doing this. And again, just go and read Alexis de Tocqueville, who noted this in 1837, his Democracy in America. It's just evidently it's becoming well, I wouldn't say that's national feature. It is primarily confined to the so-called American elites, and including American military, which evidently never studied the history of the real wars. And the question here is not only that. Russians, of course, had in the First World War, this thing, they called it the Tsar tank. Obviously, it was the most impractical contraption. It still exists. You can look at it, and you understand that this was something like out of the left field. But Russians experimented in World War I with such things, and they call it Tsar tank. Well, now Russians have this Tsar tank, they call it, and Daily Mail, being people, stupid people, I mean, they call it Blatmobil, which is, of course, Blat in Russian is the famous cussing, and actually it's a literally word. It's not something like F or anything. Blat is means merely slut, and this thing has been making rounds all over the place. What many people didn't understand, they call it Tsar tank. As you can see yourself, actually they have their what is called maskirovka, or just present themselves as the moving shack. It's a great idea, but as you can see yourself, this very low-tech shack actually has an extremely high-tech electronic warfare units on its turret, and as the result, this thing was actually, you can watch it in the video, is doing incredible things. So just, and Russians themselves laugh at it because, just the way it is, just funny looking thing, which turned out to be very effective. It's difficult to hit her. So, and this is what they have been, going around, and suffering from all that. And now the United States also, as political, tells us, oh my God, US way sending additional military advisors to Ukraine as Russia gains momentum. The troops will be serving in a non-combat role, officials said. Sure. It doesn't matter in what role they will be serving, because obviously, as you can see yourself, as Politico mentions yesterday, throughout this conflict, the DoD has reviewed and adjusted our presence in country as security conditions have evolved. Currently, we're considering sending several additional advisors to augment the Office of Defense, and the Office of Defense, performs a variety of advisory and support missions. There's nothing what Pentagon can advise there on the front, because they never faced anything like this, and even though those minuscule morsels of the experience which they gained there is still willing to change anything about their planning. They learned some things, for example, that you cannot stay static there because you will be annihilated, but other than that, it is all, as I already stated, just primarily keep money in military-industrial complex in the United States, which is not ready to produce anything which fits modern combat of the 21st century. And so that's pretty much everything I have to say about the $61 billion, which any normal professional, and many of them are saying same thing, and we have been saying this for actually quite a few months, will change absolutely nothing. So if anybody thinks that it somehow delays the Ukrainian collapse, well, yeah, you people just study the basic tactical and operational issues of the modern war. They are becoming increasingly available. So now, I have to go back to one thing which many people and they asked me, they send me some people send me messages, others put their posts in the discussion boards under the video, and sometimes I read them all, sometimes I read selective ones. So, and they asked me that, oh my God, what about this additional funding for $3.3 billion for submarine forces in the United States for 2025? As was sent by Lisa Franchetti, which is now acting chief of naval operations of the U.S. Navy, about the increase of this funding. What is this all about? Let me put it this way. The question here is very simple. Even single Virginia-class submarine cost around $2 billion. It's just insane. And guess what? So for $3.3 billion, you're not going to buy much other than one and a half of the Virginia-class submarines. Most of those things, they go, for example, on the improvement of the such naval bases as in Guam, like a Par Lagoon and Bay. So for the basing of the American submarines and U.S. Navy submarines, but they're not gonna change much in terms of the how to put it politely, capability of the U.S. Navy submarine force, which we know is not doing that well. And many people, in continuation of what I was trying to stress last time, I want to elaborate a little bit more on that. And here we have to go to basically what was stated 10 years ago. I mean, this is really nothing new. I presented it to you before, and this is what many people have to understand. Among this US military propaganda and porn, they have to keep in mind this. It was 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, it's actually 13 years ago. As you can see yourself, in Defense Technology International, April 2011, they blew just basically dropped the bomb. And they speak about that Carolina in the Sea trials. The Navy prohibits the submarine and other Virginia-class boats from the exercise with light diesel-electric subs for fear of their stealth could be compromised. First, obviously, it's all those, how to put it, platitudes about stealth, compromise. Well, what is this all about? And here they have this last analysis and other experts acknowledge these electric subs. But the most damning phrase is this: it is not clear that any passive sonar system using existing or planned technology could be effective in all environments or against quiet threats. Last year, this Navy security rules prohibits operation of the Virginia class in the vicinity of the foreign SSKs, which are diesel-electric submarines, noting that additional testing is needed to fully evaluate the Virginia ability against this important threat. And this is what comes down to all those Abrams and things like that. Virginia's are wonderful subs, and they are definitely ocean-going subs. Although, as you know, that for example, they are one of the most quiet, but not the quietest. And fact is, we are in the technological paradigm when the distances at which you can really hear the submarine are reduced to very few, how to polite it, but 100 meters. That's really difficult in using passive sonar. You cannot use active sonar unless you're attacking, because with the passive sonar, that's the only thing which prevents you from disclosing your location. And here we have, go down to memory lane 30 years ago. Mr. Masnikov, in Science Global Research in 1994, he wrote, mind you, this was 30 years ago, can Russian strategic submarines survive at sea? The fundamental limits of passive acoustics. And you can easily download this paper if you want to actually fairly easy mathematics. Well, it's not that easy, but I mean, it's just basic, logarithmic, so things of this nature. And Masnikov gives, at that time, 30 years ago, he gives a good review of the fact that, even at that time, obviously primarily Los Angeles class submarines, they will not necessarily be in the anti-submarine warfare mode against strategic missile submarines of Russian Federation, which go out to sea or combat patrols. And he explains why. And it all comes down to what signal processing. And today, for example, already in 2023, 2024, you can always go and take a look. Yes, it contains quite a bit of math, but not all of it necessarily that difficult. You can go, for example, to the Signal Processing magazine and Volume 220. You can pay money if you want to. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But here's an example. By the way, pay attention. These are all Chinese guys who wrote this. Multi-frame coherent track before detect methods for weak tones in passive sonar. They explain the situation with the broadband hearing. And mostly when you hear listening to trying to find the submarine, it has to be the lower level spectrum. It's and they explain what the problems are and why they go to the tonal type of the listening, so to speak, or signal processing. And you can go and see all kinds of articles, by the way, by the same guys, passive detection of ship radiated acoustic signals using coherent integration of cross power spectrum with Doppler and time delay compensation. So yeah, these are scientific articles. You can see yourself how you have to look at the received signal. So they provide the mathematics about those received signal, which are actually in the foundation of the detection, or rather the processing and doing the coherent integration, which is, of course, you have to establish the thresholds, and after that it comes the probabilistic analysis of the signal, and they tell you, oh, this is the real deal, the other one is not real deal. It's all based on statistics and good level processing. So, but as I already stated, those processing capabilities, they are all between 90 and 65 nanometers, and even less than that, but it's more than enough to process signal. And that is why, for example, Russian and US submarines, in terms of the planar arrays for their sonar stations, or sonars, in Russian called МГК, Морской гидроакустический complex, which is a naval acoustic complex. So they are very close to each other in terms of the capabilities, and there are also simply limits. And this is what comes down to in terms of the situation in the, for example, Arctic theater. And we are talking about specifically Arctic theater of operations. If you take a look, for example, at the depth on the map of the what is called the throat of the White Sea, this is the entrance to the White Sea. It's a large entrance, so it's long, about 100 nautical miles long. You will see yourself that the depths in meters there, they vary between 25 to 55, 60 meters, and it's a very difficult hydrology being the main thing, obviously, for the sonar and passive detection, because as you understand, there are all kinds of the well, let me put it this way, reflection of the acoustic waves, which go through the go directly through the medium, they reflect from the bottom, and then reflect actually from the top. And so it's a very complex issue, and here comes this was most important. So, and the reason I showed it to you, and for example, this is also the Kara Sea, and the line which you can see yourself very roughly. On the left, you see yourself this thing, the Kola Peninsula, that's the White Sea under it. And there you have the length of the almost 1,000 miles, and this is the Kara Sea. And the reason I did this line is to show you that the depth there, roughly, give and take, are between 28 to 50 meters. These are extremely difficult acoustic and geographic, really, environment for the operation of the such submarines as Virginia class. And guess what? And that's where we come down to the real war. Not all this BS, propaganda that, yeah, we're gonna hear them. No, you're not. And they're not gonna hear you from the very long distance. And here it is. US Navy, unlike Russian Navy, doesn't have diesel-electric component. Russians do. And just to give you an example, if we go back at it was about 2 years ago, they suddenly write, this is Newsweek, guys, the UFA diesel-electric submarine, which was commissioned in November 2022, will move from Baltic Sea to the Pacific at an unspecified date in the fall. Russian state media outlet Izvestia reported on Monday. The UFA, one of Russia's Project 636, its improved Kilo class diesel-electric submarines, is touted as an advanced stealth vessel. The improved Kilo class submarines have been dubbed a black hole and are believed to be among the world's quietest submarines, which is correct. But this is the previous generation of submarines in Russia, which are still extremely effective. Northern Fleet has 6 of them operational right now, and will be more. And that's where we go back to my previous video, and why I want to show you this table again. Keep this in mind. These are the Project 677 or Lada class submarines, and as you can see yourself, all of them will be on the Northern Fleet. And what is important about these Lada class subs? They are brand new. They are smaller than even Kilo class, which is Project 636, which already is called the black hole. This guy's even smaller. I mean, they're still large enough to maintain an extraordinary for this type of submarine arsenal, including the Caliber cruise missiles and eventually Zircon cruise missiles. and they are smaller. And because they are smaller, they obviously are even more difficult to detect. And some say they are the quietest submarines in the world. And that's the threat of which Virginia class, they don't want them to be nowhere near of those submarines. And as they already stated, even it was well known even 20 years ago when Swedish submarine Gotland class have been loaned to the US Navy. It was literally running circles around aircraft carrier battle group in the Pacific, and they couldn't detect it. They made like several kills. They killed obviously, in the exercises, they killed one of the nuclear submarines. They torpedoed the aircraft carrier itself. They torpedoed all the ships there. And guess what? They never detected it. So when they surfaced, they went and showed the whatever necessary photos and things of this nature to demonstrate that, hey guys, we really killed all of you. So this is what is happening, and that is why, for example, why Virginia's class are very capable submarines, and especially in the deep ocean, somewhere far where the nuclear propulsion allows to go them, they are not good in the shallow waters. They not necessarily will win this duel, let's say this, which will, let's say, the greatest anti-submarine warfare asset is another submarine. But the point is that, yeah, they are not capable to actually outrange in terms of detection all those diesel-electric submarines, then the new Kronstadt or Lada class submarines, the next generation of them coming with the air-independent propulsion. So they are becoming very close on their capabilities in terms of their sustainability and being underwater for more than 2 weeks, close to nuclear powered submarines. So, and you cannot hear them. They will hear you because they have obviously extraordinary modern signal processing, extremely good planar acoustic or sonar. And when you look at this, just like, yeah, guys, this is, we are looking at a completely different paradigm. Not that Russians stopped building nuclear power submarines, which they still do, and Northern Fleet has many of them. But this is just to demonstrate to you why all those who had dreams about somehow, the northern Arctic route, well, they are really not based in the reality. And this is just to demonstrate to you what even Russians themselves stated actually 6 years ago. And when they were doing the first trials of the Lada-class submarines. In the course of tests, the diesel-electric submarine St. Petersburg showed characteristics an order of magnitude higher than those of Project 636. As you remember, Project 636 being dubbed by the Western observers the black hole. And that's the whole thing. Can you imagine if that thing is a black hole, what is going on with those, Lada class? Nothing. They are just that much better. And that's much stealthier or clandestine operations, if you wish. And then, of course, yeah, Russians in terms of the quietness and capabilities of the acoustic complexes or sonar complexes. In their latest nuclear submarines such as Severodvinsk, or for example strategic missile submarines of the Berey class, they are equal or better than their American counterparts. And that is the completely new paradigm, which puts some damper, if you wish, on all those were dreams of somehow fighting Russians in Arctic. It's not easy, guys, and Russians have been doing this for a very long time. They are adapted in terms of fighting the Arctic warfare, especially the one which is under the ice. And this is a whole other story because Russians have unparalleled experience with operating under the ice. If you remember the famous Typhoon, Project 941, actually in Russian it was Akula. There's a misnomer of this. Typhoon is just merely the missile complex. They have been designed specifically for undersea operations because they are so massive. They didn't really need that much defense, because they would simply just go and stick themselves under the ice and go, good luck trying to find them. When necessary, they would surface, break the ice, launch their missiles, and go back down. So it is a whole, other world operations in Arctic, and Russians have an unparalleled experience of both navigating it and basically fighting that. So, and in this particular case, what can I say? The same as with Abrams tanks and things of this nature, there is no denial that, how to put it politely, the United States is losing arms race even in this field. And one of them is, of course, because obviously, as Chief of Naval Operations Elmo Zumwalt reported, quoting Mr. Rickover, none other, when he asked him, why don't we do this, don't make those proper ships that are designed to fight really, this dirty, fight. And Rickover told him, United States Navy got used to traveling first class, and the first class being those huge, expensive nuclear-powered ships, be them submarines, let alone aircraft carriers, which actually already with the appearance of the first long-range anti-shipping missiles lost their edge against the real power, bombing the Houthis, and even there with no result whatsoever. So, and this is what I wanted to tell you today and give you the food for thought in this end of the weekend. And as always, guys, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and those who can afford, please support me on Patreon or buy me a coffee too. And as always, my profound respect to my wonderful patrons, guys. I know who you are. Thank you very much. So guys, that will be it, and I'll talk to you later. Bye bye.